Episode number 2. Welcome all. As per usual, let's start this off with a prayer to make sure that we're well aligned. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for letting us come here again to speak our truths, our experiences, our stories. I'm so grateful for these listeners who are tuning in, and we just ask, Lord, that you help us speak your love. The words that come out of our mouth, let them be yours. And so that we can inspire, guide, and teach those listeners who have graciously taken some time off to hopefully take something away from here. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Okay, episode number 2. First and foremost, we fixed a mic. We're working on the second one, so hopefully this works a little better. We're still figuring out the IT stuff. We got a lot of love from our first episode. Mm-hmm. We're 3 subscribers in.
Is it 3?
Mostly family members. No, I think we had a few friends. So listen, we're not doing this to get famous. We really hope that if it touches one person or one couple, then we've done our work here. And you know what? I'm enjoying this.
I am too.
Yeah, I think we're having fun with this. Yeah, we're almost kind of looking forward to this now.
Yeah, selfishly, because we have actual time to just hang out with each other doing something that we like to do. Mm-hmm. And our daughter's in good hands.
Yeah, she is. Okay, so today's episode, I think it's only fair that we talk a little bit about marriage and business. Yeah. Right? Our story, obviously everyone knows by now that we work together. You were a registered nurse. You're still a nurse. Once a nurse, always a nurse, but you've been full-time here as a business owner for 3 years now, mm-hmm. essentially. And so let's talk about that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of people out there who are either thinking about getting engaged, are married, been married, looking to start a business, and the significant other, I've always said, can make or break you. So let's get into that. Let's start with this. Let's start with our story real quick, right? Maybe this will help someone who is engaged or looking to get engaged, and what to be looking for, or at least our story and how it helped us. Okay. So, I mean, here's the story. If I was to be, and I'll give my version and you give yours. So we meet through a mutual friend. Both Yadi and I are, in some sense of the word, at the peak of our lives. I mean, mm-hmm. Super into our careers. You're already a registered nurse at a teaching hospital in the Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. I'm already a business partner, working for some Fortune 500s. We meet, and it's not love at first sight. Mm-hmm. It's actually a pretty interesting conversation, more of a what would you call it? Not an argument, but like a discussion of political and life affairs. Is how our very first conversation, right? That's how we meet. But something happened that day. Something triggered in me when I went away from that evening, because you were, for a long time, I hadn't really been challenged like that by a girl. Look, I was a young man. I was at the top of my career. I was sought after, and I say that humbly. And you didn't care about any of that. And you spoke your mind. You stood your ground. And something flickered in me. Fast forward, we start dating, and one thing was obvious to me. We both weren't looking for a relationship. As a matter of fact, I feel like we were both pushing away from trying to get into something serious. Why do you think that is?
That we were pushing away? Mm-hmm. Well, we were focused. I think really we were focused on our careers and our passions and everything else, like our fitness. I think we had a lot of common things that we were going after, but love wasn't one of those. Mm. And so naturally, we had to push away. That wasn't in our, realm. We weren't even thinking about it. So if you're not actively searching, of course, you're not going to really embrace it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's something to be said about that, right? And we give this advice to some of our single friends. 2 things I would say. 1, it's when you're least looking that someone shows up in your life. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
And when you're least looking, it means that you're working on yourself. And that's what essentially what you're saying. That's what we were doing. We were so focused on working on ourselves that we weren't looking. So when we met, we became the cherry on what our life could have already been seen as a great life at that time of our life. So part of some of the criticism that we got early on in our relationship. I mean, we had some close friends tell us that we were probably not a good fit for each other.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite ones was, "You're both alphas. This will never work."
Yeah, I heard the same.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting comment, because it is funny, but it was like very true in like the sense of, I definitely have a lot of alpha in me and you have a lot of alpha in you. And so I think when that comment was made, I right away was like, oh, that's pretty true. You're right. That might not work.
Yeah.
And I just kept moving on, like moving with my life. Like we weren't actively trying to, engage with each other.
Yeah, no, not at all. And so again, things start getting a little serious, and we start having conversations. And I think one thing that became clear to us was that I think we both knew that we were going to get married someday. Not with each other, but we were both knew that our future. I mean, I come from a big family. You came from a big family, and we just both knew that we were going to get married someday. Never thought it would be to each other, but someday that marriage was there. And so in that time in my life, and at least I'll speak for me, I was looking for a good partner. Mm-hmm. I had already gone through my puppy love phases. I had already had short-term and long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. If I was to look for someone, it was going to be someone who I could count on to build a great life with. Yeah. What do I mean by that? I don't know that I was looking for love at first sight. It would have been nice. I don't know that I was looking for head over heels, I'm living in the clouds. It would have been nice. Mm-hmm. I was looking for someone who had their head on their shoulders, the best advice I ever got was this. When you wake up and you look over and you see the person next to you and brings a smile on your face, that's check number one. If you can see yourself living a future for the rest of your life with that person, that's check number 2. And 3, if you can see that person being the mother of your children, that's check number 3. Mm-hmm. And to my surprise, you checked all those 3 things off. My point is this: become the person that you are seeking to attract. Okay, we get that. Unfortunately, we get that from a lot of our single friends. There's not enough good men out there. There's not all these women. They're all YouTubers and I mean, it's just that we're gonna keep this conversation PG-13. But the endless amount of criticism that we get out there. Yeah. And here's the bottom line. Here's where I think our advice would be. Number 1, stop desperately searching for someone. If you spend more time working on yourself, whatever that means, mm-hmm. fitness, health, mind, business, career, spirituality, whatever that means, if you spend more time developing yourself into the best version of yourself, believe me, when you least expect it, that person will come into your life, mm-hmm. right? But how can you expect the greatest woman, the most caregiving woman, the most, ambitious woman, when you yourself are not that? You yourself have not developed yourself into that, right? So I think that's what helped us out a lot in when we first met, and that's essentially why we decided to get married.
Yeah. I would say the last piece that I could add to this, and I talk about this a lot with, people that are closest to me, and I say this: of course, people are young, and there's a lot of young girls out there that maybe they're seeking attention on social media, they're dressing provocatively, but yet, or they're traveling the world even, right? And they're like, I want to get a husband. I want somebody to love me. I want a partner. Remember this: everything you see on social media is fake. It really is. You're just putting your best foot forward. In reality, what you should be trying to do, and I align with that statement, is make yourself, work on yourself, become the best version of yourself. But number 2, be different. If you're doing exactly what everybody else is doing, you're dressing exactly like everybody else, you're showing your body on social media, you're not going to attract that same person. I would have not attracted or my husband would not have been attracted to me if I was that person, you know? So do something that's going to help you stand out, that they're going to say, I got a true treasure. You know, she's like 1 in a million. That's who I want. So that's something that I always preach to younger women and girls in college. Like, make sure that you're different, you know, and don't be afraid to be different. Truly respect yourself and value yourself. I really don't care if somebody says you dress really like modest and like conservative. I love that. Okay. Last thought is, I truly believe that too, that the person is going to come when you least expect it, and I thank God for that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I love that. And men, my last tip of advice for you, take it from me. I partied, I dated, and you're not going to meet a woman founded in principle and faith, with her head on her shoulders, if you're out living a promiscuous life. Okay, it's probably one of my biggest regrets was that time in my life, because it does something to your soul. You know, that your body is your temple, and you want to protect that as much as you can. And in this society, men are tailored to think that the more women I sleep with, women and money, and the more I get of that, the more of a high value man I become. And that couldn't be anything from the truth. Take it from my experience. It does something to your soul. It takes away something from your soul. And, you know, God forbid you don't make a mistake and something happens, you catch a disease, or now you have multiple children laying around, and now you've really made it more difficult, not just for yourself but for generations to come. So pull that back a little bit, man. If this is maybe this is the sign that you're looking for, that it's time to cut back, focus on yourself, treat your body as the temple, and God will put a jewel in front of you when you're ready. And if you're not ready, then don't expect that jewel to show up. Okay. Yep. So let's transition here a little bit. The second thing that I think we can talk about is the buy-in. Okay. So yes. So how did Yanni come to work for the company? How did this happen? Gosh, how much time do we have here? So long story short, again, Yanni was a registered nurse for a hospital in Silicon Valley. I was a partner at a company. There came in 2021, February 14th of 2020, Valentine's Day. I made a clean cut from my partnership. A story for another day. And we had already we were living together. We were already living together. We were already married. No, October, because we got married in October. We're engaged. Yeah, the marriage was around the corner. So February, I decided to start my own business. That's a story for another day, I think. The message, I guess, here is that there's might be some listeners out there who are either already engaged, married, and thinking about starting a business, and you're having a hard time getting your partner to get the buy-in. That's the comment.
Yes. Or the other side that I see a lot is you're dating somebody that owns a business or is an aspiring entrepreneur. Maybe they're working for somebody, but they're very close to going out on their own.
Okay. Yes. Good deal. And men or women, it doesn't matter. So this is the comment that I get. Caesar, I don't, my wife, she's just not in it. Like, she's like questioning it. I told her I was going to do this. And then, we have a family, we have a mortgage, I've been working for this company for a long time. It's just like I want her to be my partner, but she keeps saying no. So I'm just going to put off on this. Does that sound familiar? So here's what I would say to this. And this was our story. Long story short, the proof is in the pudding. Okay. You cannot wait to start something that God has whispered in your ear. He's whispered it for you for a reason. You cannot wait for the other person to get buy-in. Sometimes you have to show proof that you have what it takes, and that no matter what, that you're going to do what it is that you set out to do. Yeah. Okay. I feel a lot of times we wait and it might not even be a significant other. I got some clients now who are so eager to look for a partner when they haven't even proven concept yet. right? And I get it. Listen, it's scary, it's lonely, you want somebody there with you. But if you're having a hard time getting that buy-in, you just sometimes have to go out and do it yourself. And there's different ways of doing that carefully, where you also don't, neglect or do something under the table without telling your significant other. But sometimes you need to lead by example. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's the common. I think that's what happened with us, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And so what would you say to listeners who are perhaps having a hard time getting the buy-in from their significant other?
Well, you have to show proof to the pudding. That's number one. And I think that's the most important one, really, because a lot of the times it's going to be a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion. It could even lead to a lot of arguments, because if you're a true entrepreneur and you're a true visionary, per se, your drive and your sense of urgency, and it's never going to go away. You're like, once a visionary, always a visionary. So you're going to have that urgency, and you're always going to want to try it, see if it can happen, et cetera, et cetera. That fire in your belly is never going away. Unfortunately, I say this because it has been a topic of conversation. We've argued about it. It's been there, done that. So I would say, proof to the pudding. What can you do to show your spouse that you mean business? And I mean real business, because especially if you're watching this, you live in California, your spouse is not going to be able to live off of like $200 a week. Like, I mean, it is tough out here, okay? It's expensive, and there's a lot of risk involved with starting your own business. But with high risk comes high reward, of course. I'm not saying everybody should be a business owner, because there are a lot of people that essentially are not ready.
Absolutely agree.
You agree?
Absolutely
okay.
Agree.
So when I say proof to the pudding, I would say, if you are going to start, one of the tactics that we see often, and I think I align with this too, is start doing it on the weekends. So if you say, hey, look, I want to start my own HVAC company, et cetera, but like, let's say you're working for somebody else doing something similar, on the weekends you have like some side gigs, some side jobs. Okay, maybe you can start doing that and doing it. Maybe give yourself like 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday, and you're going to go do this, and you start showing them that you're interested, that you know what you're doing, you're making some money. So there's proof to the pudding. There's multiple ways that you can go about it. You can also say, I'm going to start this. Look, I'm building my website. Look, I already started the logos. I already started my business cards. It's like, oh, okay. Because when you start saying you want to do something, but then it's backed up with actual proof, sometimes for women, it's tangible proof. Mm-hmm. Did you make the money? Can I actually search your website? Can I touch the business cards? Oh, you got a logo on a decal on your car. Wow, this is serious. At that point, I think it's harder for a spouse to talk you out of it, because you've already started the process.
I love that.
Okay. The last part that we should add is, when Caesar started New Life, our current company, he started in April 2020. Although I wasn't completely bought in, by the end of the year, he had already done $1 million in sales, over $1 million in sales. So that span of 8 months, he proved to me that he meant business.
And that's all it took.
That's all it took.
How can you not have buy-in with that kind of a proven concept? Yeah. I think that's the point, right? Don't wait for your significant other to buy in for you to start something. Lead by example. The other thing is that even if you do have proof of concept, which is kind of where we're at now, does your significant other have to be in business with you?
No. There's a lot of successful people that we do follow that their spouses don't actually work with them. Their spouses do nothing related to the business. However, one tip of advice that I got from a lot of people in the past, and currently still, is, even if you're not involved in the business, you have to have a fair understanding of the business, and you have to one of the things that I do recommend is that you have essentially like an emergency plan set in place. What does that mean? If your spouse were not here one day, something happens, or let's just say, like, God forbid, they're just ill and they can't actually work, who are your top 3 point of contacts that you need to reach out, and what do you need to do in order for, one, the plan for the business to continue functioning, and who's your attorney, who's your CPA, except like basically all the most like top 3-4 people point of contacts. You need to have those names, those numbers registered on your phone. You need to have spoken with your spouse about it. What do I do in case of XYZ? A lot of the times you'll see that some businesses go under because something happened to the business owner and the spouse had no idea what to do with the business, so they had to dissolute. They have no idea. They lost a lot of money in the process, and it doesn't have to be that way. Of course, ignorance is bliss. I'm not saying that you living in La La Land is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying, if you are going to be married to somebody that's in business, you need to have a sense of idea of what to do in case of an emergency.
Brilliant. Okay. 100% agree. Yeah, you cannot live in ignorance, right? There's a lot of debt. There's liability oftentimes, or there's a lot of money sitting in the bank, and you gotta, as the spouse, you need to know how to direct in case something was to happen. Yeah. So no, I totally agree. Yeah. And again, my point is this: you don't need your significant other to always be part of that business. I mean, Yadi and I talk about it all the time. I mean, she still has this little bug of perhaps someday wanting to go back and nurse. I mean, she loved it, and it's something that it still lives in her, and and whether it's for the money or not, I think becomes irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And we talk about that. It's like, look, without a doubt, having a power couple doing something together is by far going to multiply your ability to grow, right?
It'll give you the ammunition. It'll give you a lot of ammunition.
100%. But I would say don't do it to a default where it starts basically ruining your marriage, right? And so I see that a lot, and I think I've always been really clear, and we've had that conversation where it's like, I don't know that I want to do this forever. I mean, you said it in the past, like you have certain, you love certain parts of this business. I think the people become, has become the thing that you're inspired as our HR manager, like you're dealing with these people and their lives, and you get to be part of that. Yeah. But maybe it's not forever, and I've been totally clear and said, hey, look, if at any point you want to step away, let's do it carefully. I mean, that's also we have a responsibility to our company, our clients, and all the folks that we're associated with. So if you ever wanted to transition out, go be a nurse, go start real estate, stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom, I love that. Why not? I mean, what could be more a God-given use of our lives than to allow your significant other to live the season that they're being called to live.
That what you just said really made me think of something. When you said that if you were to ever, or in this case, if I were to ever walk away from it, he said, do it, what was it? Responsibly. And in other words, do it very strategically, how you go about it. That made me think of the fact that you really need to be essentially, don't make decisions emotionally, because a lot of the times when you lack maturity, you will be more. You're laughing. I know. What?
I want to ask you a question. How many times have you in your head quit?
In my head, I've probably quit like 6 or 7 times in 3 years.
Me too. Me too, yeah. But anyways, to your point, right? Like, yeah. But I do think, jokes aside, I do think that probably happens to some people, right? I mean,
no, but they probably go through with it.
That's what I mean. What I mean. Like, the emotion. Like, look, this is an emotional roller coaster. Hang on, buddy. And it comes to a place where, again, like you've quit several times now, but you have to also be show responsibility and know that, like, look, this is my emotion speaking right now. Give it another day. I've always said
it's never been like one whole day though. I would say it's mainly like an hour or two, and then I really think about it and I think like, man, no, I'm not ready. It wasn't, it's not what I meant to say, you know, and then we have to come back to the table, like talk about it and really discuss where it is that I'm feeling a lot of friction, or is it like our relationship? Some of the times we've talked about this. Some of the times you try your best not to bring business things home, but it's inevitable, especially if you're both operating the business at the same time.
Perfect segue to our third and last point here.
Okay.
Marriage and business. Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about how to perhaps find the right spouse.
Yeah.
We've talked about the buy-in, and now we're actually in business. Let's show a little vulnerability here.
Uh-huh.
What does our relationship, our marriage, and our business look like?
They're very intertwined. Yeah. There's no balance.
Mm-hmm.
I love the social media gurus that are like, work-life balance, let's meditate and do all this stuff and go on retreats or vacations. And look, I'm not saying those things are bad, but I don't think we really take vacations. We don't need a vacation from our life. Our life is fun. It has a lot of ups and downs, and mainly because of business. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of emotions involved with it, right? But there's no work-life balance. We just make things work, and I'll be very vulnerable. The reason why it works right now is because we have managed to work together in a lot of things. What does that mean? There's certain hired help. We have a village. We work together in a lot of the things, and we try our best to not bring things home, but if it does happen, and it does happen a lot of times, we go to bed, we're talking about something at work related. I'm not saying it's healthy or it's not healthy, it's just something that we do. But at the end of the night, you know, we always come to terms with it, we make peace, and we kiss each other goodnight, and we move on. So
yeah, so let me piggyback off that in reverse.
Sure.
First and foremost, never going to sleep angry.
Yeah.
Right. I think praise God, we've done that pretty well. You know, we've had, and God, I mean, Yadi has this way of like waiting till like midnight to bring up a conversation, and I'm like, babe, why couldn't you just waited in the morning? I'm so sleepy. You know?
I've gotten better.
That's how she works sometimes, and so you know. I've learned now to turn on the light and say, okay, it looks like we're gonna stay up tonight. We have to hash
this one out.
Yeah. So that's really important. It's never sleeping in another room, never going to sleep angry, talking it out. And then also you have to be somewhat reasonable. You know, learn how to say sorry. Learn how to be wrong, for God's sake. Like it said, I think that's the other thing we've learned so well. You know, it's like, especially as a man with pride, one of the hardest things for me to say is, "You're right, I'm sorry." And men, I mean, it's the most powerful words that you can learn. You know, and then mean them, right? Again, obviously mean them, and then vice versa. You know, also for yourself, you're very easy to forgive, and it's such a God, like it's such because you can hold on to that for days, but you don't. You tend to, and there's some times where I'm like, oh, she's gonna be mad for a while, and then you'll come around like within the hour, and it's like everything is kosher. And I don't know if like we're too tired now with the kid to continue to argue, but that ability to just let things go, it's come with business. I mean, look, you're dealing with a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, a lot of disagreements, perhaps. And you just learn to get through them quickly and then forget about it. We deal with it. We didn't agree. Let's agree. How can we compromise? Okay, this is a plan. Boom, you move on, and you never bring them back up again.
Yeah,
we never put them in each other's face. We never crucify each other for a mistake. You made a mistake or I made a mistake. Okay, what's the lesson learned? Okay, how are we going to prevent this from happening again? Let's move on, and we never bring up that problem again.
I agree. That's huge.
Let's talk about this. So what can we tell our listeners that are thinking about getting into business with their spouse to align better, to make this work a little bit better? One thing you mentioned is the balance. Forget about that. Okay, look, maybe the best way I've come to understand it is this. Yes, you're never going to have balance, but it's balanced in a different way, meaning that there's going to be a season in your life where business becomes the priority. Okay, there's going to be another season in your life where you're your child becomes a priority. We kind of went through that, for the first couple of months. I think now we're transitioning a little better. There's going to be a season in your life where your marriage becomes the priority, which means that like your marriage takes priority this season and the business is down here, right? So that's the balance to me. And I think once you tend to accept that, it's okay, because it's like pushing I like to say it's like pushing a hot marshmallow, a huge hot marshmallow up a hill. Oh, my marriage is being affected. Okay, let me push this up. Oh, well, let's look over there. Oh, my business now needs a little attention. Let's go over here, right? And I think that's just balance. But I think to say we're not going to talk about business in bed, we're not going to talk about business in dinner. We're
not going to be on the phone when we're at our kid's soccer game. We're not going to do. It's like a lot of rules. I think like people just you forget. That's the thing. You can make all these rules and then like you just forget. Like the next time, I remember the other day you said we went to sushi and he's like, hey, we're gonna leave our phones in the car, and I was like, man, was that a rule that we made? Did I forget about that rule? I have great memory, but I mean, even I forget sometimes.
I have a tip too. Align the roles. Be very clear with the roles. Try not to.
Don't make it like gray, where it's like it's almost.
Agreed.
Like, what would you say? Something that is very like clear with us.
So I'm the visionary. I'm the culture driver. I'm sales. I'm at a high level, I'm the terminator when it comes to firing someone. I'm the one.
Business-wise, we're talking.
Business. Like those are my roles. Big decisions, strategic decisions, client relationships, all that. Right. That's Yadi doesn't get in my lane. I ask for feedback, but she never goes into that lane. Yours is HR, treasury, vendors,
vehicles, relationships, vendors. Anything that is within that realm, that's all me. Yeah. Anything that has to do with people.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting is that I don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with that, and I don't think you want to deal with this, right? And I think that's what's important. Once you differentiate this, trust. I think my big takeaway from all of this is trust. I have utmost trust for Yadi and everything that she does. I mean, this woman tracks every single penny and every single dollar that comes in and out. The filtering, the discernment of who, the first phase of interviews, I have utmost trust that she knows what we're looking for and what we're not looking for. And I think that you have trust in the decisions that I'm making, and in the strategic, kind of ideas that where we're going, where we're taking the business. And so, yeah, I think separating those roles, being very defined in those roles that align with your strengths and weaknesses, help each other in other ways, right? Like you mentioned, but the work-life balance, don't get hung up on that.
Yeah, it's like cliche.
Don't get hung up on that. Try your best to live a peaceful life with your partner. Understand that they are the priority. The business is secondary. We've always said that, hey, as long as me and you are good, it doesn't matter what the business is doing. The moment that you and I are not good, the business can be thriving. For some reason, everything starts falling apart.
Yeah.
So we make it a point to really make sure that we're aligned. And how do we do that? Fitness. We're big into fitness, right? Right now we're on a crazy diet plan.
I didn't even sign up for it. That's the thing.
Leading by example, right? Church, our community. We stay really involved with our church and our community, our spiritual life, and any other extracurricular fun things like this. Yeah. We do a lot of things together,
and we do a lot of things separately too. I think that's also really nice to do, to find your own passions. For right now, one of my passions is going to my niece's games, like practices actually. So like their martial arts, or if they're doing basketball, that's something I like to do. And I take the baby with me. I think it's fun, and it kind of breaks up my day a little bit. We're going to start swimming classes with the baby soon, so it's going to be like real fun to just do something different. But I would say one of the biggest things is, have your own passions too. You're individual. At the end of the day, you are one, but you are an individual first, and you can have your own passions. That's beautiful.
I love that.
You know, and communicate. Always communicate. If you have a hard time communicating because maybe you grew up with people that didn't communicate well, read some books about it, listen to some podcasts about it, practice it, see how it works out. When you're in business together, you want to communicate as much as possible, advocate for yourself. Don't think that they're mind readers and vice versa. It's going to go a long way. And you could be really successful.
I agree. Love that. Well, Yadi, that's our time, folks. That's our time for today. Any last thoughts? Any last takeaways for our listeners today?
No. We should have have them help us find like our motto.
Yeah. Listen, give us all the kind of input and advice and comments. If there's something in particular that you want to hear us talk about, by all means.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. I wish we could do more podcasts in a week, but you know, right now once a week seems to be it.
Yeah.
And if hopefully you enjoyed this episode, it's possible, and it's more possible when you find the right running mate. And it all starts with yourself. Our purpose in life is to become saints, which in other words is the best version of ourselves. You know, life is short. Make it worthwhile. And you know, if you can make a little money on your way there, I think that's an added plus. So with that being said, thanks for hanging, babe. I love you, and let's go do some chores. No, okay. God bless y'all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right.